I was really looking for something that could see the ROI. I was able to land like a most recent client was almost like 6K a month. I like doubled my income within like one conversation, and that led to me hitting 0 to 10K within 4 months. And I was like, yo, like that's crazy, but we did it.
Guys, we got Ethan Fung today. Ethan has been a student in Leverage Creator for how many months now?
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where were you revenue wise when you joined the program and where you are today as of April 11, 2025?
Yeah. So I started at zero and now I'm at 10K a month.
Wow. How does it feel? You're a new man. We were joking about it before the call.
It's a huge blessing to be in because yeah, I really had no idea how far this journey could take me, but the fact is that I'm already at 10K a month at 4 months is surreal. It's such a huge blessing, and I'm so grateful for this yeah, for the all the opportunities that have come my way through this program.
What would you say is like the biggest mindset shift that happened along the way?
I think I always knew I like had the skill, like I had the ability to create good videos, but it was the idea of needing some type of like sales aspect. I think that was a really important part. Knowing how to articulate and communicate value to clients and being able to actually be mentored by people that knew, were actually doing the work, actually seeing success was something I was like, okay, like this is a fast track to get to that point. If they can do it and they can replicate it for me, then why shouldn't I see the exact same success?
Can you walk us through real quick just the last 4 months? So let's go back to 4 months ago. You were starting at zero. Did you have any videography background? And like what you always said you had the confidence to make good videos. Where were you at that time? Like what were some of your goals? What were you struggling with? Because I remember originally you didn't actually join Leverage Creator right off the bat. You actually started with the course. And then after that, you're like, I got to get in the mentorship. So I'd love to hear that more about that story and how you found us and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so before I even considered the course, like I was actually doing like a few other types of businesses. I was doing like a software startup. But by trying everything in the business, that gave me the I don't know. I realized that I really enjoyed the marketing, the storytelling, the content creation side of things, and I was like, hey, maybe I can use this to leverage for other businesses. And it was actually my parents who encouraged me. They were like, Ethan, like if we died today, like I don't know if you'd be able to take care of yourself. Like you gotta get your financial situation like on track. And I was like, fair enough, fair enough. So I did like this 1 month challenge with them. I was like, okay, I just gotta make $3,000 because I actually made like doing the startup, you don't make that much money. So I was like, I made like $3,000 in from January to September that past year, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can make $3,000 in 1 month. And I did that, like no mentorship, no nothing. And that was like a huge struggle, but I was like, we got it. We got to that 3,000 mark, and I was like, okay, this is great. And my parents were like, congrats, Ethan, but you gotta do it again and again and again. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So I thought, what can I do to use like my existing funds? Like, how can I reinvest that into myself? So actually, that's when I first saw the course that Cam had with the Leverage Creator, self-taught videos, and I was like, okay, like this seems like a pretty smart decision. Like they know how to do sales. That's something that I know that I need to work on. So I did that, and then from there, I was like, okay. Now, do I want to do the mentorship? Because I knew like the mentorship was like an even bigger investment, and I didn't even have like the full funds at the time. But I knew at the end of the day, like if I were to be successful with the mentorship, like it would pay for itself, and I would be able to just be able to do the mentorship, but also have more funds for the business to reinvest. So it was a bit of a leap of faith. I think I was on the call twice with Joe before I was like, you know what, all right, like let's do this. And yeah, I remember that first month that I did it. That was like very challenging because again, you're cold approaching, cold calling, definitely not in my element. You're pushing your uncomfortability, but I knew like, hey, like one thing that's really important to me is my faith, and I knew like God, like if you want me to be here, like you will pave the way. Like you've already you're fighting my battle for me. So I was like, you know what? All I have to do is take the next step and the next step and the next step. So I would go through like the cold approaching processes, like going through finding businesses, doing the research, and by the end of December, I had my first first like retainer client. It was only like 500 bucks, but I was like, dude, the fact that like I had my first retainer client, like that's crazy. Because again, like I was seeing like $0 for like the longest time. And then from the that deal, then I went to a deal that was like 1,000, and then it became like $2,000. And I was like, okay, like we're at like pretty solid point. Um, and then I kind of was at a crossroads because I still had like the startup that I was doing, but I wasn't seeing like as much fruit anymore, versus like the video business. And I knew like I felt like God was saying like Ethan, like I taught you all you needed to do in this time in the startup. Now I want you to like go all in. Like I've given you this gift of videos and content creation. Like you can let go of that. And I was like, oh, like then I have to have conversations with my co-founder, like my existing clients at the other startup. But I was like, you know what, God, like I trust that, again, you've already paved the way for me to be here. Like I trust that everything else will go smoothly. So I had those conversations. They were like super understandable about like choosing to like go all in with the video. And then from there, like God just opened like more doors, and I was able to land like yeah, the most recent client was like almost like 6K a month. So I was like, dude, like the fact is like I went from like I like doubled my income within like one conversation, and that led to like me hitting, yeah, 0 to 10K within 4 months. And I was like, yo, like that's crazy, but we did it. Like we did it. And so I think the one of the first things I did is like I took my parents out for a meal. I just said like thank you guys for encouraging me to like again take a leap of faith. And I know, yeah, like it's it's definitely it was definitely challenging this past season, but again, like you're already seeing the fruits of the labor, and I just want to give back to that, to the people that God has placed in my life to encourage me.
That's awesome. And one thing that I would love to add to that as well, Ethan, is I think that it's really cool that because I remember we had this conversation too, kind of in the beginning, where you feel like you had a way paid for you very clearly by God. And I would say that with that, you just went and you stewarded that really well. And I see a lot of other Christians and a lot of other people where they actually use their faith as an excuse to not do things. And I think you really took that and you took the tools in front of you that you had and you went and just ran with it and stewarded it well. And like we're called to be good stewards. So I just want to commend you for that and just want to say I'm proud of you for going and stewarding your skill set well.
Thank you, bro.
100%.
With the first few months of cold approaching and actually getting comfortable out there in the field, getting clients, hopping on sales calls, having these conversations with people, where do you feel like the mentorship most helped you in building that initial confidence to lock down that first retainer client? And then a follow-up question to that, continuing to actually scale and build multiple clients after that first deal.
Yeah, I think leading up to that, to the first client, I think the definitely like the sales calls, like I was spending a lot of time with Joe in terms of learning like those skill sets of, how to navigate a sales call, how to like, have that even like first impression of like just going to get those calls in, get those emails sent out, approaching. Um, and once, I landed that first deal, I think that's when uh, things started to really open up. But I will say, like going on Nate's calls as well, like that mind, he's like so focused on the mindset, and that's something that like, bro, like when I was like beating myself down, I'm like, oh, I don't even like think I can do this, or the deal's kind of small, it's not that big. It's like, no, like he's hyping you up, he's like in your corner, and that was something that I felt super super encouraged by, and that led to like further deals down the line, like, hey, like again, like God has given me like this opportunity, like go and like don't like look back, right? Like have the hands on the plow and keep going. And so that was a huge encouragement. But learning alongside like all the coaches from Presley, you and Cam, I think that was something that, again, like the first 2 weeks, I was just absorbing a lot of information, just seeing how people ran things. Because again, like I had somewhat of an idea, like trying to like find clients on my own, but nothing systemized, nothing like giving me like clarity and structure. So being able to absorb that really set dividends down the line to the point where like I'm like, hey, like now I'm in a section where I do need to scale up operations. I can just implement the X, Y, and Z, and I'm already seeing the results of that, like the delegation aspect, and that's allowed me to open up even more time to again spend time with clients, nurture those relationships, and then go out and find even more deals.
So Ethan, you said that you signed a 6,000 retainer, but the first retainer that you signed was a $500 retainer. Would you say that it was harder to sign the $500 one or the $6,000 one?
I would say the $500 one, to be honest. Because it's the mental like breakthrough that you have to go through for your first client, like thinking like, hey, like you can provide a service, you do provide value. I think when you're chasing excellence all the time, I think like growing up, like perfectionism like mindset was something that was big. So I was like, oh, like if I don't do it perfectly, what's gonna happen? Like maybe I'm not worthy of like creating videos for this guy or landing him as a client. But I think as I've gone through, the experience and the repetitions of like, serving clients, that's given me I see the value of like, hey, like these videos will do provide value. They do provide a service. You are, helping this business grow. Like that is huge, right? And that means you can leverage that for other clients, other businesses, and it's a lot easier because I had that experience under my belt. But it's kind of funny because you're like, oh, like $500, like that's kind of small, right? But like in the mind, it was like huge. It was a huge
Yeah, because it's the first one.
exactly.
So what's your plan now? You hit 10K a month. What does continuing to scale look like for you?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the it's interesting to see the shift in the business. Like at the beginning of the first few months, it was all about sales, lead gen, and eventually we'll get back to that season. But right now, this is a season of like operations, client delivery, and it's like how can I optimize to make sure that I can delegate to editors. Like I'm creating content that's providing enough value that like people are like, yeah, like I want to keep paying you. Like you're providing this value to my business. And so that's kind of the season I'm in right now. And I'm spending like this current month right now to streamline those processes, streamline those operations, build those relationships. And so once that's done, once I have like this like easy kind of handoff process for my clients, then I'm going to then just go right back into sales, right back into closing deals because yeah, like that's the next step after to grow the business, but one step at a time.
Can you touch on that operation side a bit and actually learning how to do more than just lead generation and sales, which obviously is important because if you don't have that, you don't have clients, you don't have a business. But I think a lot of people that are maybe at 4 to 5K a month in that price range, they may feel that like they already figured it out and there's like a sense of confidence, but it's a case of not knowing what they don't know. So can you talk about all the things you realized you didn't know when you actually started to land a few clients and you're like, wow, there's a whole other element to this business of actually running the business that I didn't think about before I had the clients.
100%, 100%. I think I learned this, from I like again, like I have a background with a startup experience, right? And I did not delegate at all. And because of that, that meant like I couldn't do the most critical things in the business. Um, yes, I agree. Sales is like again, really, really important. If you don't have sales, you don't have clients coming in to pay you. But at the same time, if you don't have a really good streamlined service of providing good videos and being able to like have that system set up, like you're going to be losing clients because they're like, hey, like I'm not getting this on time. Where the videos aren't that good, right? And so it's just as important to have that like service delivery equal like like you need both to run a really successful business. And so being able to just have that fast track because again, seeing your system set up, talking to like a team, right? Like he's been able to just showcase a lot of his systems. That's allowed me to just be like, okay, like I can just replicate something similar. Here's how I'm finding editors. Here's how I'm delegating. Here's, like Frame.io, bro. Frame.io blew my mind. Before I was using Frame.io, like I was like, oh, okay, like at this timestamp, put it like that's like so much easier for me to give feedback. But again, like if I didn't have, if I didn't see people doing it before, I would probably still be manually writing in a group chat, texting my editor, and that's again, like that just it's just not efficient. And if you want to build a really successful business, like you need to know how to delegate and you need to know how to scale, and that requires these processes.
For sure. In that 4 months of time of going from 0 to 10K, what would you say, like, if you can think back, is like the hardest thing that you had to overcome that you successfully overcame?
I think I just remember cold approaching was like the hardest thing to do. Like just I had not a lot of confidence. Like I knew I could create good videos, but again, like the confidence to just go up to business and say, hey, like, would you like a free video? I provide the service. That was something that I didn't have that much experience doing those types of sales before. And I remember like walking up and down the street of like a neighborhood that I was close by, and I was like, man, like, oh, I'm just getting rejection after rejection. Like, what's the point? Like, I feel like this is like, I'm like, God, like, why, why are you doing this to me? But that was like a really refining moment, right? Like that was like the trial of being tested. Like, hey, like it's not easy, right? If it was easy, like everyone would be on the street, cold approaching businesses, cold approaching, real estate dealerships, all that stuff, right? But that kind of is like, separating the wheat from the shaft, right? And I was like, you know what, God, like I trust, like I have faith. Like faith was really the only thing that was holding me on. I was like, okay, like I trust, even though I'm not seeing the fruit right away, that you will provide, and I will continue to take these steps.
Yeah,
And so
just
like once I got that like first, the first client from like the cold approaching, that led to me being more confident. Like when I did more cold approaching and more, and then like led to more deal. Like it's just the smallest like snowball effect, and seeing that like seed of like consistency and faith that grew to the point where I'm like, oh, like yeah, say a 6K deal, like that's not a bad, like that's a good deal. But like it wasn't like the huge like heaviness that I felt at the beginning.
yeah. No, that's awesome. That's so cool.
I would say, Ethan, there's a lot of mentorships out there and people that are teaching people either how to start a video business or how to make money online in general. What initially like made you think these guys are different? These guys can actually help me, and what was that tipping point for you? Because I think that's something a lot of people are probably curious. If you're watching this video right now, you're probably having similar thoughts if you're not already in the program. So what made you just have that extra trust in us that we could actually go and help you get to the end result you were looking for, which ironically probably wasn't even 10K a month, because you probably didn't even believe it was possible before you started. You're probably looking for like a $2,000-3,000 a month, like you said.
Yeah.
So in short, what made you confident that we could help you get that end result when you first saw us or came about?
I've always been a big person that loves to invest in myself through education. I will say, like, I did go through university and, I had that experience, but I will say, like, it probably wasn't the best use of, like, like, you get a degree, but, like, what are you going to do with it? That's the thing. And I felt like what I want to do is, like, when I invest in education these days, is, like, I want to make sure there's practical, delivery behind that. Like, it would pay for itself, or, like, it's a good investment in the long run. Um, and I think for me, like, I was really looking for something that could, I could see the ROI. I could see like, hey, if I put in X amount, I'll get X amount back. I think that really gave me confidence, because I saw like, hey, like these guys aren't lying. They literally are working with like top clients. They're working with bigger creators, and they have the proof to back it up. So again, like, yeah, you can be super skeptical, like, oh, well, what if they're scamming too? I was like, you know what? Like, you're gonna have to put your faith in something, right? Like, you're gonna have to trust at one point. And I knew that I wanted to do videos, so it kind of just had perfect alignment with like, hey, I'm looking for video coaching. You guys are video coaches. You guys have stats and everything to back it up. Let's do it. And so that's really just again, the fruit speaks for itself, right? Like I can't say like, wow, like this was a scam. Like literally, I'm making money. I'm able to provide for my family, and it's because of this coaching program. I will say yes, everything is all glory to God. God was the one who ultimately like brought me to you guys. But again, like if I didn't have these tools or resources or your wisdom, I would still be, trying to scrape by 3K every single month. And yeah, I don't know where I'd be. Like, I would probably have to go back into like, I remember the challenge was like, if I didn't make 3K that month, like, I would have to go back into a corporate job. Like, I'd have to go like apply for a real job, right? That's what I told my parents. But because of the course, like, I I don't have to anymore.
That's awesome. And Ethan, what would you say to someone watching this video that's maybe on the fence about joining?
This is great. I remember talking to Joe, and I was like, Joe, like I'm on the fence, like I don't know. And he's like, bro, you got to put your faith in something. I was like, you know what? That's fair enough. And I think to someone who is on the fence, who's deciding, like if you know like you want to do video, if you like have this gift, right? The only thing stopping you from going further is the way you steward it. And so my encouragement to you is that if you have, a gift of video and you want to grow it further, and you want to monetize it and turn it into a full-time career. There's no better place to do it right now with Cam, with Presley, with all these coaches, all these resources, all the wisdom that you have from these mentors. I would just say take that leap of faith. Honestly, it's the biggest leap of faith I think I've made in my entire life, but again, it's paid off, and I'm just so grateful.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate that.
This has been great. I
Yeah.
mean, it's insane. It's so cool that you didn't even, start necessarily in the mentorship, but you literally grinded until you could make it work, even if it wasn't in full. And here you are, probably one of our uh, best case studies from somebody going from like 0 to 100 real quick in 4 months. It's very
Wow.
impressive.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I think what did help was like me grinding by myself, because I tried to grind by myself and I realized the struggle that, I had to do by not knowing what I didn't know. It made me so much more eager to find someone who did know, so then I could just take that fire and, load it into an actual gun, basically. And now we're shooting bullets.
Let's go. Awesome. Good stuff.